Hi, I'm ED-SKaR, and this is my Tanith first and only army, also known as Gaunt's Ghosts, for Warhammer 40k. I've been making these models for a few months now, and I have quite a few that I think are really cool. And most of them have their own videos from me making them or painting them, and I'm trying to build a resource for the Gaunt's Ghost community so that anyone interested in making their own Gaunt's Ghost models has all of the information about each option so that they can choose which one they prefer. In the comments section of one of those videos, someone wanted to see the whole army laid out, and for me that means an easy week off and I can just show off the models that I've already done. And here they are, a grand total of 42 models, and counting heavy weapons as 2 there. And that does give me enough models to build the 2 headquarters and 3 infantry choice for the minimum of Battleforged, I think? I don't know what all the fancy new words mean. And of course, the most important choice is the Gaunt's Ghosts command unit themselves, which I have recently finished painting. I put in some extra effort into painting these to ensure that they are the nicest looking models in my army, and that means that from here on it's just downhill in quality. Of particular note is Gaunt himself, who I made some weapon options for by magnetising his wrist. Chainsword for his early career, power sword from Vervenhive onwards, but also a pair of bolt pistols that he started using in the Geryon mission and occasionally uses since then. I also have some of the old 2002 metal ghosts, and I hope to soon have an example of one of each of the sculpts of this set so I can do a proper retrospective for the sake of documentation. The ones that I have are essentially the old command squad, and swapping the plasma gunner for the female ghost, which some kind person in my local Games Workshop was happy to do for me all those many years ago. These were my first painted ghosts, and the videos are nearly a year old now. Whilst I didn't exactly speed paint them, I did try my best at the time. My painting skills have improved a lot over that time. Building these older models in an army isn't too hard. Of the 5 generic sculpts, I only have the female model, but all of these 5 are just easy to drop into a modern army as generic soldiers. Corbic and Larkin have new versions, but these 2 older models aren't so distinct and can therefore become Lasgun Trooper and Sniper respectively. The others get more interesting. Bryn Milo has a Lasgun and is a Trooper, so could be fielded as such. However, the model also has the Tanith pipes, and I like the idea of running him as a regimental standard, using the buff from the flag, but instead of the flag using the pipes instead. Dorden can be run as a medic, of course, you'll just have to ignore the Lasgun that the medic should have. Gaunt, however, proves the most problematic, because there is a new version and I certainly want to run the new one, mainly so I don't have to rebase the old one. And there are so many commissars in the ghosts, but none of them really fit the old model. It's too small for Hark, too powerful for Ludd, too male for Ezekiel, and too useful for Blenner, which is a low bar to be sure. What's worse is I'm planning on several more Gaunt models that will come in the near future, so I might just have to keep them as display only. But if I add these older ones in, except for the new Gaunt, I have the following numbers. I have 19 Lasgun Troopers, 2 Flamethrowers, 3 Snipers, 3 Squad Leaders or Officers, 2 Heavy Weapons Team, and 3 Medics. On top of those I have the new Gaunt's Ghosts Command Squad and Commissar Hark. Almost all of these have their own videos, either singly or in small groups, but there are a few here that haven't. Some of those actually will be in videos that haven't been published yet, so if you look closely there are some spoilers. But these 4 models in particular have not been properly mentioned elsewhere. This is Anna Kirth, who occasionally has been mentioned but never got a whole video. She's made from a Frostgrave Soldier 2, and the colour palette is based on a piece of artwork by Anna Lakisova. I even freehanded the M on her shoulder to match the one embossed on Dorden. The other 3 are all 3D printed from Mangforge, and these somewhat push the line on what's legitimate. The main body and cloak are perfectly fine to print and use, but the Lasgun and the Flamer designs are probably Games Workshop specific IP. Now you can of course print these out without the weapons and then put on some of the spare Lasguns from your bits box. And of course, as I've mentioned before, there are many parts of this army that aren't Games Workshop products. There are models or components from other companies, which is an important part of this hobby. Kit bashing, scratch building, sculpting, modelling is an entire hobby all of itself. And to hit this nail one more time, Games Workshop is damaging the community by working against that. The vast majority of my models here are conversions of Games Workshop products. So I have Catechins with cloaks added, or Cadians with cloaks added, and there are some others that you've probably noticed in there as well. But this brings to light one example of why using other companies' parts is so important. This is my small collection of female ghosts. The women of the Tanith First and Only are an important inclusion, they are entirely a part of the story, and to field a Gaunt's Ghost army, you pretty much have to include some women. If I make this change, these are my unofficial models. It's nearly the same image, which means that this model that I swapped all those years ago is the only official female ghost model, and one of 4 or 5 female guard models, which are almost all out of production. And yes, I know the recent introduction of female heads on the Cadian infantry squad, which is a step in the right direction, but is the absolute minimum step that it could possibly have been without doing nothing. To speak of sculpts, there is a fair bit of discussion about which official bits to use for the Gaunt's Ghosts armies. I've mentioned that I've used Cadian and Catechin models. Of those two, I prefer the Catechins as the legs are in better poses and don't have that silly tunic sticking out, and the bare arms have plenty of space for painting tattoos. And these don't have tattoos because I'm saving that for a tattoo video. The Cadians are fine as well, just with some minor adjustments. I've heard of people who like or dislike either or and both of these. The Catechins are too muscly for the lanky Tanith, and the Cadians are too dorky. But the Catechins have great poses and skin for tattoos, and the Cadians have all the body armour that the Tanith wear. I've also seen some people using the Genestealer Cult's Neophyte hybrids with some replacement arms and heads, as the armour again is appropriate design, or close enough for government work. And so there are my 42 Gaunt's Ghost models, painted and ready to play. Except I'm a grown-up, and I don't force my opponents to paint their soldier dolls before they can play with me, so by extension that means I can also use some of my unpainted models as well. And to bring those to the board, I can add another 6 Lasgun troopers, a priest, 2 more squad leaders or officers, a Vox specialist, 2 flamers, a heavy flamer, a plasma gunner, a missile launcher, and a mortar gunner. And I also have these 2. These are the Metal Griffin crew, who load and fire the heavy mortar. I haven't fully decided between these how I'm going to use them. I could use them with the mortar as a mortar crew, or they could become other specialists like Vox or sweepers. However they end up, they will need paint stripping and cloaks. But wait, there's 2 more. Imperial Guard players everywhere will tell you that you pretty much need to take some tanks or your army isn't remotely competitive. But the Tanith don't actually use vehicles at all. Whilst many Tanith players get by without, it is a fun, fluffy army after all. Many others will paint up some tanks as some of the friendly Imperial Guard armour units that the Ghosts have fought beside, assuming that their army list isn't solely the force organisation of Tanith, but rather a snippet of the Tanith in a larger battle, where there happens to be some Quetzalcoatl artillery or some Purdue tanks close by. The Basilisk needs a little bit of work to unconvert it. It was used as a looted vehicle for my orcs for some time. The Lehman Russ is only really been painted with some basic details, so I need to revert the cannon and then finish painting it. And so there are all of the models that I've built so far. But if I can run these models, how do I run the models? There is of course the chapter approved Gaunt's Ghost specific army list from 2002, from 3rd edition. It's a little out of date. If you look in the right corners of the grand old interweb, you can probably find the 2017 Fan Codex, which unfortunately again is out of date as it's 7th edition. It also focuses a little too much on naming every name rather than having a viable playable army. But it is an excellent read and I recommend looking that up. Well, up steps a certain member of the community who is currently working on a 9th edition Fan Codex, and I'm helping them out with that, if you count yeeting PNG images at them several times an hour as helping. But that's not ready yet, and so I'm stuck with the standard codex and just taking a kind of codex compliant guard army, but with fancy models. The headquarters choices are straightforwards, 1 slot for Gaunt's Ghost Squad and a 2nd for Commissar Hark using the Lord Commissar rules. Troops choices are also fairly easy as there's all of 2 options and one of them doesn't fit. The remaining infantry squad has been taken 3 times. Each has a sergeant, a sniper in the special weapon slot, and one of the heavy weapons teams. These I imagine as a fairly static or slow moving infantry blob, with all of the longer range weapons that benefit from standing still. Heavy support is also easy for me, I'm just using those 2 tanks painted up in the allied armour schemes. However, things get all of a lot more complicated in the elite choice. As the Tanith First and Only are an elite light infantry regiment, they kinda need more elite slots. Trying to clear out the easy options, I have a special weapon squad with 3 flamers. And this model will be Zweil using the rules for the Minister and Priest. As I really want Dorden as medic and Milo's pipes as the inspirational regimental standard, I have to take at least 1 command squad, which only has 4 models, but I'd throw in the heavy flamer as well. These form the mobile side of the army, with Gaunt's Ghost Squad getting all up in people's business, with a command squad with a medic following along to maybe heal a wound here or there, and the flamers to burn out at least something hopefully. And that leaves me with all of the straggler models, including 2 more medics, sergeants, vox. I'd really like to fill this out into a veterans squad, but I don't have the right choices to make a complete veteran squad, so temporarily I'll put them as a 2nd and a 3rd command squad, which totals 5 elites choices, so just about squeezing into the battle-forged battalion. With some quick maths, that comes to a total of 839 points, which I know it isn't accurate. I'm bouncing between 2 codexes and a web page with points changes, and it's a bit of a mess. It's roughly 800 and something points. It won't actually take that much to bump me up to a clean 1000 points, and that'll probably be the end of my project in terms of a gameable army. I'm probably going to do some fun models after that as well, because I have a little bits box of parts. There are legs and torsos and arms, plenty of heads and weapons, and importantly, quite the collection of cloaks. I've also set aside some particular parts in little druggy bags so that I can build them as specific characters. There's a scout, a commissar, a sweeper, and a fair piece of work. As well as half of an elf that I thought would make a good Saint Sabbat, but I'm not 100% on that anymore. And there are some secrets that I am still keeping for future videos as well. So there's the lot. So much to talk about, as nearly every model in the army is a distinct conversion, different from everything else. I have a whole heap of videos in a playlist where I have built and painted most of what you see here, with more videos on the way roughly once a week. There are also other videos of making and painting different types of models, and links in the description to other stuff that I get up to, and as you would expect, a comment section beyond that where you can ask questions and discuss options and all of that sort of stuff. I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and thank you very much for watching.